Hello all, today we are going to talk about IID modules and how we can integrate IID SCA modules to consume the message from MQ. Earlier I made a video on creation of the MQ queues, queue managers, channels, and how we can integrate with just IID. You can see the video here. If you haven't watched that video, please go ahead and watch that before you see this video. To brush up on what we have done in the previous video, I'm going to give an overview. So in that video we created a sender queue and a receiver queue, and we were able to put the message from send queue to the receiver queue. And today what we are going to do is we are going to create a module in IID, and then we will export that module as ER file and deploy it on the WebSphere application servers. And when you deploy that, you will see an SCA module installed on your WebSphere application server. And with that SCA module, you can update that SCA module to any of the applications that has this MQ reader. I'm going to explain about this application and the reader toolkit. Let's say we have an application called Harish payroll system, and we need to create another toolkit called Harish payroll MQ reader. Usually in real life situation we need to have one MQ reader toolkit per application. So, and this reader toolkit is associated with a SCA module on the WebSphere application server, and you can update this SCA module so that it points to the snapshot that you want to, where you want to create the instances. So instead of changing the SCA module from IID each time you deploy a snapshot, you can update this SCA module, the import or export binding. That way it is pointed to the right snapshot. You can use the same reader toolkit another application, but that is not preferred, but theoretically you can use that. Only thing is you need to point this SCA module to your another application. So at any point of time your SCA module can trigger the instances on only one applications. So that is the reason we prefer to have one MQ reader toolkit per application. Here I have Harish payroll system and Harish billing system, two applications. So my main goal is to associate a toolkit with the Harish payroll system. So I created another toolkit, Harish payroll MQ reader. Go into the Harish payroll MQ reader, create a business object called external message. In external message, create two parameters called message identifier and object. Now create a new process. Name this process HPMQ or correlation process. Now add the external message object to this process. So I added the external message of type external message as an input variable for this process. Now change the process type to the SCA service, and you can add the message as external message. You can see here it generated the service interface for this SCA start event as HPMQR correlation process start one way. This will be used in the IID module that we are going to create soon. I opened the IBM Integration Designer. Now go to Process Center, or now Workflow Center perspective. Give the URL of the Process Center or Workflow Center, username and password, and click on Login. It will try to establish the connection to our Process Center. So enter the password name for the secure storage, click OK, click yes, and click yes. So now you need to enter the username credentials again. Go to toolkits, and we want to create the SCA module in this toolkit. So open in the workspace, and here it's also showing that toolkits inside this MQTT toolkit. So we don't need to have UI toolkit, and then click on OK. Now go to file and select new and select module, not integration solution but just module. So here you need to enter the module name. So from now on, pay attention to the names I'm going to give. Please make sure you follow the convention so that it will be useful in the future to update the SCA module using bash or Python scripts. What I mean by is it, so you'll be constantly creating new snapshots on your for your process applications and deploying it to the process server, correct? So you want to update the SCA module to point to the newly deployed snapshot. So for that you need to have a script which update the SCA module. If you follow the naming convention, it will be useful to create a utility to update the SCA module. So the convention I am going to follow is MQ Reader and then app name, which is Harish Payroll System. Click on next. So ignore the library, we can add that later. Click next. Any process application or toolkit, because we want this module to be independent. Click next. Let the lazy parsing is checked on and click on finish. So as you can see, assembly diagram for this MQ Reader HPS module is automatically opened. If it's not opened, just double click on here. Now go to dependencies and add the Harish Payroll MQ Reader library to it, and click on Ctrl S. So it is saved. Now go to dependencies, go to data, right click on data and create new business object. Enter here like process data and click on finish. So now it opens the process data and click add the variables to the process data object. So here the process data as message identifier, and then add value and save it. Now create another data object called MQ receive message. Click on finish. So now add a property to this MQ receive object as process data of type to the what we just created, like process data, and click on save. Now we need to create a new interface for our MQ listener. The interface name is request and click on finish. Now we need to add a one-way operation to this interface. So the operation name give as MQ receive message, and inputs also receive message, and type as MQ receive message. Save this, close this interface and return to the assembly diagram. Since we are consuming the message from the MQ, go to the inbound exports. That means we are consuming the inbound messages, and drag and drop MQ, and here select the interface we just created. Request, click next. So here you can give the request manager name, request queue and everything as hard-coded, or you can specify the J&A names. So the second option is better, so that it is configurable when you deploy the SCA module. So here it is asking for the J&A activation specs. So usually we can create before creating this SCA module, that way when you deploy it won't complain about not finding this activation specs. So I prefer creating that activation specs and queues, everything set up in WebSphere client server before you deploy this application. So here I already have created the activation specs. Okay, so for this how I created, you can refer to my earlier video on this. So for here I'm creating simply the J&A name and getting the queue associated with this one is JMS test receive queue. So that means whenever there is a message in this queue, this will be triggered. And here you can see the function selector. So we will define that, we'll use the data handler. We will define that once you click on finish. So here by default it is UTF XML data handler, but we will create our own data handler to handle the exceptions, such as if there is malinformed or involved XML in the message that we received from the queue, we need to be able to handle that. And second, if there is any message format is wrong, or if this is unexpected message, we should be able to handle. And third thing is restructuring the XML. If there is any if there is an exception, but still we want to communicate this message to the BPM layer, and then we also will write like logging, extra logging for the debugging purposes. Now select new and then go or select new and then go to other. Here type in like class, select the class, so select the source folder mqreader HPS and gender src. And leave that default package as is, and in the name click put HPS message data handler, that means process acronym name, and then message data handler, and click on finish. So this will automatically opens up the Java class. So you need to copy and paste the class that we already have. So make sure your class matches with the name of the class, and then the process acronym name we are going to integrate this module is HPS, and HPMQ correlation process is just what we created in the process center and in the mqreader toolkit, and the object namespace ending with the mqreader HPS. So these are the three things that needs to be updated. Now go to the assembly diagram, select the MQ export. Before that, let's rename the MQ export. Let's go to refactor and then rename, and the new name we should give is MQ listen for messages, and then refactor. Okay, now we need to select the custom data handler. Click on select, and then select your own custom data handler, and then HPS message data handler that you just created, and finish it. You can see it has changed. Now control save. Now this component is responsible to pull the queue from the activation specs. So once the message is received, we need to kickstart the BPD that we created in the toolkit. So for that, it will be outbound imports. Select the SCA module. So here you need to select the interface. If you remember, we have this process one way. If you remember, when we created this SCA start event, it generated the HPMQ correlations process start one way interface. So we need to select that and then finish. So we will rename this SCA import to match with the process name. So right click on that, refactor, rename, and then we need to give it the process name, which is HP MQR correlation process. And click on finish. Refactor. And this is very important step. So give the module name as process acronym, which is HPS dash, and the snapshot name, the initial snapshot name. It is not snapshot name, actually it is a snapshot acronym name. So we will get that snapshot acronym name, and then dash process app. Okay, so since it is our initial module, SCA module, what we need to do is we need to know what is the process acronym name for this process application that you are going to deploy. So now let's go back to the MQReader app, MQReader toolkit, create a snapshot like MQReader, it doesn't matter the name what you're going to use, MQReader TK version 1, finish. Now go back to your process application like Harish payroll system, add that toolkit, MQReader, just there is one that we just created, select that and then create a new snapshot like HPS V1, click on finish. So this is the snapshot name, but we need to know what is the acronym name of this snapshot. So for that, go back to the workflow center and click on the Harish payroll system. So if you see this one, right, HPS V1 is the acronym in the parenthesis. So in this case it matched with our process name, snapshot name, but it may not. So HPS V1. So go back to here in the module, SCA module, and to give HPS V1. Make sure there are no spaces. So once again, the process name dash the snapshot acronym name, initial snapshot acronym name, and then process app, and the export name give the same name as HP correlation process. Click on save. Now we need to create a mediation between these modules, imports and exports. So go to components, go to Java, drag and drop it. So here the name you can give is MQ to PPM, and you need to add the interface to it. So the interface would be request, add interface would be the request interface. That means it needs to match with the interface of this one, and you need to add the reference. So reference would be HPMQ correlation process start one way, because it needs to match to this one. So this is like custom mediation module between the this import and then this export, and Control S. So we remember we have our own custom data handler. So this is like, you know, for extra logging, debugging purposes. Okay, we need to add this custom mediation module. So double click on that to implement that. It says that you want to implement. Now I'll click S and select the default package. So here you can copy and paste the MQ2 BPM implementation class you have. So here you need to change the 4 things. The process acronym name should be the process app, which is Harish payroll system, and toolkit acronym name is HPMQR, and the correlation process name in the toolkit is HPMQR correlation process, and the logger is what we just created in the HPMS message data handlers. So remember, we created a data handler just before this, so you need to have that one here and then save it. So with this, the module is completed. Save the changes, Ctrl S, and 3D the layout. So now we need to export this to deploy it on the process application server, which is WebSphere application servers. So click on export and click on Java Enterprise Edition EAR file. Next. So the naming convention is EAR file, make it as default, and select the destination by going to browse, and the name would be MQReader HPS.EAR. there is no app, so you don't need to select optimize for a specific runtime server, because I'm going to deploy on 19 workflow server. Now let's deploy HPS application to our workflow server first. And also let's look at the VAS application console. So if you go to the SCA modules, you can see there are no SCA modules related to our toolkit. So let's deploy our enterprise EAR applications. Go to enterprise server, click on install, local file system, go to downloads. So this is where we saved the EAR file before. Click OK. Next. Fast path. And you don't need to do anything here. Click next. I just select apply, select next, and before I hit on finish, I would like to open the logs for it. So now I'm going to hit finish, and we can see the logs. So you can see I don't encounter any errors, and this application is installed successfully. Sometimes it may fail. I encountered this before. So what you need to do is you need to export it again, and then make sure you don't check the optimize checkbox, and then install it. Try to install it a couple of times. So I'm going to save it. And now let's see if the application is started. So go to all applications, so this is the MQReader app we just created. Let's try to start it and then see if the error shows up. app, submit action. So you can see it successfully started because we have all the activation specs and everything created before the deployment of this SCA module. And you can go to the SCA module, see where it is pointing to. So MQ Reader HPS, go here, imports. So it is HPS v1 cross app / correlation process. If you see this one, this is what we give exactly in the properties HPS v1. So this is, you can see in HPS app, HPS v1 process app. So that means this SCA binding is tied to this snapshot. So, and if you see the exports, MQ listener for messages, which is correspondent to this MQ listen for MP. This is export, and this is import. So if you see the binding in the MQ, you see the activation specifications is whatever we gave during the development. Okay, and we made sure that this matches to the our the specifications that we configured in the WebSphere application server. So let's see if we are able to create an instance using the MQ. So for that I use it in the MQ. So when I put the message in send queue, it will go to the transmission queue and then it will move to the receiver queue. So this is the receiver queue that is being actually polled with our MQ listener export. So whenever there is a message in that destination queue, which is a receiver queue, this will listen, this will poll that and takes that message and pass it on to this import, and then this will create instance in the it will trigger the process in the toolkit. So let's see how it works. So that means when to put the message, I can either put the message directly here or I can put it here. So let me put the message. So to put the message, there needs to be a proper format. So this is the format that needs to be. So this is the identifier, because in queue you may use the queue for different purposes. So this is the identifier, for example update, insert, or like payroll, like pay the bill, something like that, just to identify the what kind of message is that. And the value can be anything that that's a payload. The value property may contain the payload. So let's copy this and then paste it. So you can see in the process admin console, in the process inspector, let's say today's day is May 7th and right now time is 2:42 p.m. so 2:30 p.m. So when I search, there is no messages. So now I'm going to put the message. So when I just put the message, you can see in the logs, these logs are printed. We have written this code in the MQ2 BPM implementation. Okay, and these messages are from the message handler. So these are the logs, like this is the word XML and we're trying to parse, and then this is the identifier we just passed, and then this is the value. Let's see if it kickstarted the process. So if I refresh it now, you can see the message is started, the instance is created in the HPS v1 snapshot, and the data, the external message. Okay, this is not set. I think we need to see why. So let me see. Okay, so as you can see in the toolkit, it's not set. So let me put that message and message identifier and message. object. Save it, take another snapshot. It's fine. Now go to your application, payroll system, update the toolkit, and then create the snapshot HPSV to finish it. Now let's deploy this HPS v2. Install. Okay, and I want to migrate. That way it will make it active and default. So the installation is completed. Let's go to the SCA modules and see if it is changed. So still it's HPS v1. So let me put another message now. For a change, let me put the identifier 2. Control C, Control B, and put the message, and it's received. So you can see identifier 2 is received with the value of this one. Let's check the process inspector. So 120 is created. Okay, if you see MQ-SBC correlation is this is not what we expect, right? So the reason for this, I have another reader listening to the same queue, so that's why it's created. So let me go back to the SCA modules. So stop all the listeners, like see this is the MQ reader. Let me stop this one. That way, only our application will start this. So let me delete these two. Let me put the message again. So now let me inspect that. So if you see this one, the message is received, but it says that SCA snapshot deactivated BPD cannot start. Let's see why it is so. So it says that Harish payroll system, it tried to create instance in this, but since it is inactive, it could not trigger the instance. So now our question is, how do we point this SCA module? Okay, this SCA module to point to the HSPV2. So what I try to do is I went here and then I try to change it, see if there is any target, and created HPS, but it did not change. So as I found out, there is no simple way of changing this binding using the VAS console. Let's see what's this jar contained. So if you log into the server via PuTTY, and if you go to this location, profiles, installed apps, the PSL, you can see MQ Reader HPS app ER file. And let's download this jar. So I have this Java decompiler that you can download from Google. So let's see what's in this jar file. So just drag and drop here. So you can see there are a couple of files in this chart. This is HPMQR correlation process, and it's not showing the contents here. So for that we need to unzip this file. So let me unzip this file. So unzip and extract to MQRP. So here MQRP, so it's showing the same file, and specifically we are looking for the import correlation process dot import. Let's see what's in there. So the file showing here is, see, this is showing the module HPS process app. Okay, so this is where this is hard coded. So we need to change this somehow. Okay, we should be able to change this file change this via admin script. So we need to change this. We should be able to change this hard-coded snapshot as well as process app acronym name. That way this SCA module can be used for different applications and different snapshots. So for that, what I did is I created a folder on my server, that custom hurry scripts, and in that I copied that input file. Let's see what's in there. So I made this change, the process app acronym dot snapshot acronym, because we want to make it as dynamic, and then process app is what was there before. So we just want to change these two dynamically. So I created a script that dynamical, where user can input the process app acronym name and snapshot acronym name dynamically, and then execute the script. So let's see what's in the script. So first cd into that location, and first I want to make the copy from the template, which is HPMQR correlation process import. This is the exact file that we need to change in the server. I mean in the server where the jar file, in the jar file. So after copying it to the exact name, we need to change the process app acronym, okay, as whatever the user inputs, and after that whatever the snapshot with the snapshot acronym. Actually we can put snapshot acronym, but yeah, I'm using this notation in the file, in the copied file. We don't want to change the template, we just want to change the the copy in the copy. And then what we are doing is we are stopping the reader, because we want to, before making changes, we need to stop the reader. So what I'm doing is I created the script to stop the reader, and then that script is kept in the temp stop reader.py Python file. So and then I'm passing this Python file to the admin script with the -f means file, and then now opt. So that way the reader will be stopped. After that I am going to update the file. So similarly in the above, so I'm created a script that admin update and file operation and the contents from the from this file to the original content URI. So original content URI is mqreader.hps.jar that I showed before, and this is the file contents we need to change with the whatever we have made the changes in this file, and I am feeding that file to the admin script. And once that done, I'm starting the reader. Similarly, same way as stopping, I created another script and feeding it to the WSH admin script. So once it's done, we created these temp files, right? Temp stop reader, temp update, temp start reader, and then this one also we don't need because we have that template, so we don't need this one because user may want to change like every day, so we don't want to keep copies of it. We want to only maintain the template, so we are removing those 4 temporary files. So this is where the user can invoke the script. So that's for now. Let's see what's in there. So go to the applications, SCA modules. Let's check what's there for our MQ Reader HBS SCA module. So right now it is HBS and HSBV1. So I deployed another application called HBS Harish Billing Systems. Let's check. So HBS and HBS V1, and let's see the process inspector. So let me delete it so that we have the fresh one. I deleted it. So let me log in the MQ, and I'm going to put a message, new message. So it's done. Let's check the process inspector. So you see the new instance is created on the HBS V1. Our goal is to create instances in the HBS V2 or HBS V1, whatever. Okay, so for that we need to invoke this script. So HBS, so I kept it as default. So HBS is the default, and I want to change it to HBS V1 and run job now. So let's see the output. So it is invoking the script on our application server. So it's connected to the DMGR. So the first 2 steps are copying the MQ import file and then changing the process app and the acronym name. So right now it is stopping the application, and now it will try to update the process app contents of the jar file with our modified file. See, it's updated. MQ Reader is updated with the contents whatever we have, and then next step is to start the reader. You can also see the output on this one. So you see the MQ Reader app is started. So you can say this is completed, the script is completed. Let's check the SCA module. So right now HBS, so it's supposed to change since we changed it by the script. So HBS, see HBS V1 change. Let's now put the new message. Put a message. And check the logs. See the new message received, and if we check the inspector, it is supposed to create in the HBS V1. So earlier it was HBS V1 and it is HBS V1. The reason because the reason is, as I said, there is MQ Reader. We added the MQ Reader here for the HBS, and included here for HBS, but there is only SCA module. This SCA module we are changing that process app and snapshot acronym with the run deck, dynamically. That way it can be either pointed to here, or it can be either pointed to here, or any snapshot in the your application. So this is how we can use one SCA module for different applications. Thank you guys, thanks for watching.